Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. Let's watch. I'm going to react.
You are trying to play my family so you can live in America and live, like, nice. You know what I'm saying? You trying to, like, play my dad. You trying to play my family, dude.
Listen,
you ain't do
Jack chose his own path, okay? Listen.
We're supposed to be family.
So if I were there, I would tell Andrei, look, he's hammered. His brain isn't working right. So if you're trying to reason with him, this is not the time. Even if Charlie was sober, I would say, what are you hoping to accomplish? You're going to see eye to eye with him? But it's interesting that we're hearing Charlie, the brother, talk about his point of view. He's saying that Andrei is using the family, that he's playing the family, and that essentially the accusation is that Andrei woke up in the morning and says, ha, 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 I'm going to marry into a rich family, and then I'm just going to mooch and mooch and mooch. I don't know if that's true. It could be true. I don't think that's true. Has he been irresponsible monetarily? You could make an argument for that. Is there a legitimate reason why he's having a hard time finding, ongoing employment? Yeah, you could say that too. Is he partly to blame for that? I think you could absolutely blame him partly for that. Is it partly due to the fact that he's in another country and it's hard to find a job when you move countries for everyone? Absolutely. But he and Libby decided together off camera that he was going to stay home and take care of the kids, which is totally fine. So, I don't know what the problem here is exactly. But kudos to Andrei for just, I think, staying relatively sober and not getting into it with the brother in terms of, a physical altercation.
Probably went up to like 30 grand. I know for sure that Chuck paid for Charlie's wedding too. So he's really a hypocrite and he's just drunk and he can control himself and he has a grudge.
I'm gonna protect him.
But you're just
I'm gonna protect
right
him.
now.
Charlie.
All right, so that's interesting. That was a hypothesis that I had, was that Charlie feels responsible to protect his father or to fight his father's fights, prove himself loyal to his father. Maybe his father only gives him love and attention when he does this sort of thing because the father sees, oh, I'm glad that you are actually being loyal, because I think the father has he puts a lot of weight on that loyalty issue. I don't know. It's purely speculative. I have no idea, but that was one of the things I was like, is he doing this because he's trying to prove himself to his father? It seems like that's at least part of it.
Man, stop it. That's all. Okay? It's a wedding in here.
No, Libby. I'll come over to America.
Yeah. Don't act like a kid, man.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it seems like this that I think of people around the world watching this and going like, yep, typical American. And it's stuff like this that just makes me want to hide my head in shame this is how people see us, because this is how a lot of us act in other countries. Like, entitled. We got to say whatever we want. Yeah, we're the best, number one. Like, just stop it. But the friend or brother said to Charlie, stop acting like a kid. That's a very accurate assessment. You're acting like a child. And I didn't show all the clips, but, he's just like, hey, you stop being an effing punk. You're an effing punk. You're a B, all this kind of stuff. And everyone's like, okay, it's fine. How about you just chill out? I mean, it's like the way a 13-year-old talks when they're trying to act tough, if you've ever seen like a video of a 13-year-old who obviously isn't very tough and is insecure, they've watched videos or whatever, and they have the language down, but they don't really know what they're doing. And I don't know if I show this either, but when they were at that restaurant a number of episodes ago, and when they almost got into a fight, Andrei and Charlie, and he said, what's good? What's good? What's good? You'll hear that statement too. What's good? What's good? And it's just ridiculous.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you, Nicola, because you're a strong man. You take care of your daughter. You take care of your family. You care about Elizabeth. You care about my daughter. Maybe I'm a kid sometimes, but I know. Okay. But I've been wrong, okay?
All right, so we heard the father say, I just want to be appreciated sometimes. That's great. That has a little bit of vulnerability. Instead of making fun of Andrei, he is getting to the heart of it, which I think was always there, and that's fine. The father is saying, look, I work really hard so that I can provide for my family, including you. And I guess I just wanted some appreciation is all I'm looking for. We see in the past and earlier in this season, I believe, when the two of them, Andrei and Libby, were living in a house that the father was paying for. And the father, instead of saying, I feel underappreciated, what he said was, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're not working on the house, all those kinds of criticisms. But that was him feeling hurt, transferring that into anger and then to hostility and criticism, instead of just starting from the beginning of just being like, hey, Andrei, I just want, I've been paying a lot of your bills, which I'm happy to do, but I feel like you're not being grateful. I guess I'm just looking for a thank you. A thank you goes a long way, a sincere thank you. And, the father deserves it. But unless you ask for it, sometimes people don't know that that's what you're looking for. So, kudos to the dad for doing that. I think Andrei is still a little confused as to what's happening right now, but, his heart's in the right place, I think.
Oh my gosh. I gotta say, my first impression is pretty much what I thought it would be. It's very gloomy, sad looking, and hell no, this doesn't look like a European destination.
Like when you go to a dinner and you have to say, what's that, what's that, what's that, what's that, what's that?
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah.
So when you go to another country and you don't recognize the food, you automatically assume it's disgusting and bad. Instead of, newsflash, there are other cultures around the world besides the United States, and they have different cuisine, and their food looks different. When they come to the United States, they have the same thoughts. What's that? What's that? What's that? Does that mean your food is terrible? The mindset of these people is just, ugh.
Hey, I wonder if the reason they eat pork fat is because it's like cheap and it's like almost like the scraps. That's
You're
why.
in a poor country.
Okay, so one, what? Two, maybe that's true because atrocities and poverty is a thing. Does that surprise you that there is poverty around the world and people have to make do with what they have? My tradition, Japanese Americans, we, during the internment camps, during the imprisonment during World War II and other times, were given army rations because we were imprisoned by the United States government, even though we were citizens, and we were given Spam. And we normally, as Japanese Americans, would have regular kinds of proteins to be able to make, but we only had Spam, so we made do. And we started to create sushi and other kinds of Japanese dishes with Spam. And so Japanese Americans, Spam is like our comfort food because we had to make do with it. Is it because Spam is very good? No, it's because we had to make do. Lots of groups of people have been oppressed and treated horribly and had to make do. So the fact that you are looking at food and possibly it's because this group of people have experienced horrible things. I don't know if Moldova has. I know a lot of peoples in the USSR experienced hard times and had to make do. So instead of looking down on them as if they choose this sort of thing, you can celebrate the ingenuity and the perseverance of these people instead of putting them down like ugly Americans.
Andrei, your reaction to Chuck calling the food there peasant food?
He doesn't have respect at all. That's why it's
this is actually
this
is my first time seeing that, and that's disappointing because my husband is nowhere near a peasant, and neither is his culture. So.
But even if it was peasant culture, who cares? Do you not recognize that some people are peasants? Some people don't have money. That's their fault? That you look down on them? Is that how we're supposed to look at this? That people are peasants because they choose to be? That people are in poverty because they choose to be? The privilege and the just, oh.
What I meant was normally Americans would throw that food out, but you've learned how to use it and put it in your diet.
You're not throwing away bacon, Chuck. What are you talking about? You're not throwing away bacon. You're eating bacon.
So I think the dad was actually trying to do a good thing here by saying, well, what I was saying was, which is not what he was saying. He was definitely ridiculing, but I think he's trying to change it and make up for it. He's saying, well, what I was saying was you use food that normally people would throw out, but you actually will reuse And I think he could have followed that up a little bit by saying, and that shows the ingenuity and how the culture will make sure that everyone is fed, because maybe there were times when life was tough and you had to do that sort of thing. Like some sort of follow up with that. I think that's what the dad was saying. I don't know.
That wasn't
like every morning. I know
That
for
was-
sure
that was-
eating bacon. You're a meat lover, so
That wasn't bacon.
Let me get Charlie in here. When you see yourself on camera actually talking about the culture, is it embarrassing to you at all? Do you regret anything you said?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
He's not demeaning the culture. He's not talking bad about his culture.
He's not demeaning the culture. Well, I guess since you were demeaning the culture too, Jen, you also wouldn't notice that as well. Again, it's one thing on this show to watch people having self-destructive marriages, which is not easy to watch. It's another thing for Americans, white Americans, to go to another country and do what we always do, which is just disgraceful. I mean, this is the sort of thing that people are talking about when they say, stop.
Culture. He's just pointing out facts.
it's just nonsense.
To immediately start putting down Andrei's country was a little bit untasteful, you might say.
Even Debbie recognizes that it's not okay. Even Colt's mom, Debbie, says that's going too far. That should say something.
I'm not sitting in the middle.
Take it outside now. Dude, come on.
I'm not sitting in the middle. Stop!
What you gonna do?
Stop it! Stop! Babe! Charlie, stop!
In America, we do what the we want and we say what the take it outside. We do what we want. We do what we want.
There's that line. In America, we do what the F we want and we say what the F we want. Great. Since you're an American, you don't have any responsibility for what you say and what you do. Wonderful. Just fantastic attitude. Wonderful.
Him up so easily.
They came here for us, and you're mistreating them.
wedding.
Don't get in my face.
It's your wedding.
Get in my face and I'm walking away.
It's not gonna work.
Back up.
Where's the driver? Let's give a out. Where is it? Come on, let's go. We need to go. Come on, Lip. Let's get out. Come on. You're not gonna.
Now, I don't want to be confused for someone that is apologizing for Andrei's behavior. I'm not. I'm not apologizing. I'm not siding with any of these people. They all exhibit issues with their behavior. Even Libby. Libby's probably lower on the list in terms of what they've shown on this show, but she has triangulated quite a bit and fanned the flames earlier on in the season. So it's nothing compared to what the rest of the people are doing. Andrei is definitely responsible for his behavior as well. He's been aggressive. He's been domineering. He's been intimidating to Libby, and that's not okay as well. So there's just a lot of things to be disappointed in these individuals.
It's disgusting stuff.
I'm shocked.
That was embarrassing.
What do you have to say for yourself, Charlie?
Had way too much to drink, and you know, I was pretty out of line.
All right. Let's give a unenthusiastic thumbs up for Charlie for taking responsibility. He said, I was drunk and I was out of line. Well, maybe a little bit more apology would be in order. I think a lot of apologies going back and forth are in order. But I want to acknowledge it when good things happen. So good job, Charlie. You acknowledged it was your fault. It was out of line, and it was.
Andrei is using you and your family?
I would hope not. You know, because what I do for my family is out of love. You know, and I want to see them be successful in life. Any parent wants that for their kids. I don't want to believe that, because that would really crush me.
All right. Thumbs up for the dad as well. Instead of using aggressive or, I don't know, negative terms, he's saying, well, you know, I hope that he's not using me, because that would really hurt my feelings. That's a mature way of putting it, which is good. Instead of saying, he better not because he needs to, which I think the family sometimes gets into that language sometimes.
You know, like down, like employee, yeah.
Absolutely not.
I'm going to be a little guarded at first, you know, until you prove yourself. I will tell you that.
I'm willing to, you know, like to square things off, but I don't want other people to get involved in my stuff. You know what I mean? I don't want, you know, like.
So this is, of course, completely speculative based on what they've shown us on the show. But I wonder if for Andrei that when he was in the police force, and according to his story and according to his friend who was also in the police force, his story, they were required to do things that were terrible, illegal things, maybe murder, violence, who knows. And he went along with it. He didn't want to do it. His boss was telling him what to do. Andrei describes the police force like it's a mob where there's a lot of intimidation. And if you go against them, then terrible things can happen to you. And so he had to listen to authority he didn't want to. And then eventually it got so bad that he was like, I've got to get out of this. I don't want to do these things anymore. And he had to flee to Ireland in order to save himself, really. And I find that this show seems to gloss over this issue, and the family glosses over it as well. And they will frame Andrei's leaving Moldova because he was kicked out. Let's be clear. According to a story, if we believe it, it sounds believable. The friend confirms it. He wasn't kicked out of the country. He left. He fled because he was running from illegal mobsters, essentially, that were in the police force. So he wasn't kicked out. If he was a bad person, he would have stayed in the police force and continued to do corrupt things. But since I'm guessing he has morals and he didn't want to do those things, he left. I don't know why he left exactly, but that's one possibility. Anyway, so if that story is true, then you would have some traumas about a boss telling you what to do. You might even have traumas about coworkers talking crap about you. Maybe that's why Andrei is so sensitive to Elizabeth's father's authority and the siblings getting involved in his life. Maybe it is emulative of the terrible experiences he went through years ago when he was in the police force in Moldova. I don't know, but it would explain why he's just so averse to any kind of authority, right?
Just sit over here in the shadow and just like pulling your strings and like putting you against me.
Okay, well, I can tell you this. You're not going to take advantage of me.
What's everyone's going to take advantage of you?
That's what you're going to do.
You see what's going on? Like they're being disrespectful.
All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself and take care of others because we all deserve it. We really, really do.